Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the Shankly Sessions, the Liverpool podcast we bring you each and every day as part of our offering on the upper tier podcast out there on YouTube. If you could head out there and smash that subscribe and bell notification button, we would really appreciate your continued support as we deliver content to you on a daily basis during the transfer window. Today, I wanted to jump on and have a chat about our midfield and get your thoughts down in the comments and your ideas and how you feel about the latest news coming out where we're not going to move on Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain because it might leave us a bit light in midfield in terms of our options. And ultimately, he will leave next season on a free, which means potentially himself, Bobby, and Salah all leaving on a free next summer. And again, we know our process during these transfer windows and stuff like that. We tend to make one big signing and then a couple of signings maybe for the future and stuff like that. So next summer will be very interesting in what way it goes. But huge concerns there at the moment about the midfield. And when you look at I mean, this is the graphic that we're talking about. When you look at Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, he's been extremely disappointing at Liverpool. And the question is really if you're going in with a midfield of some combination of Fabinho, Thiago, Keita, and Henderson, whatever the combination is, the drop off from that then is massive in terms of cover. And this is a weird thing at a time where last season, if you remember, last transfer window in the summer, we were heavily linked with Yves Bissouma, who's now gone to Spurs for 25 million. Can't understand why we didn't go in for the boy. I presume the legal stuff hanging over him is getting sorted out, or Spurs wouldn't have made the move. So I can't understand why we didn't move for him. Certainly, Yves Bissouma would make our midfield much stronger and a much better midfield. But we're also in a situation where we were linked with Yuri Tillemans off Leicester, who is also available for the nominal fee of 25 million, I think. And I can't understand why we're not even going in for that boy. Now, I know you Reds fans out there will come back and go, well, we've decided we're going to wait and we're going to go for Jude Bellingham next year. But that's all well and good, but that's next year. But we have a season ahead of us now. We have Man City strengthening like crazy all over the park. Um, and we want to be in a title race. We want to be competing for the Premier League. We want to be competing for the Champions League. We want to be competing on all fronts, similar to what we did this year, except we fell short in the two major ones. And keeping Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain is not going to get us there. Why is that decision being made? We know that he's available for sale and that a number of clubs have inquired about him, and that I think there was a fee somewhere around 17 million was being spoke about. Why not move him on? Throw 8 million on top of that 17 and get Yuri Tillemans. To me, seems like a no-brainer. But for some reason, we just don't want to make a move in our midfield this season because all our focus is on next season and Jude Bellingham. And I just think at times in our transfer window, although bringing in Nunez is fabulous, and we brought in Diaz in January, it's fabulous, and we've got the boy Calvin Ramsey over the line now, who's for the future. We've brought in Carvalho as well, who's going to be an excellent player and stuff for us. But we are really weak in midfield, and it was shown last season. If you go back and you look at the results where we drop points, those draws and the losses, if you look at them, go look at the midfield that was in place at that time. And you will see that that is where we lost the battle. And I've experienced this firsthand. I was in Anfield for the Brighton game where we were cruising, and that man on the screen, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, was absolutely appalling that day against Brighton. I seen a man who was bagging that amount of money, pulling out of tackles and everything in midfield. And ultimately, it was our midfield that day that cost us those points. Now, some will argue those points could have won the league for us, but there's loads of other results throughout the season where we drew games. The Brentford game, the Brighton game, the Spurs game, the Chelsea game when we were up against 10 men. Like, there's loads of different places where you can put and apportion the blame in terms of not getting over the line on the league. And we don't want to dwell on that. It's done and dusted now. But we do have to take a look at our midfield. It does need a lot of work on it. And not only do I think that we need one player in, I actually think that we need two. So I'm really, really surprised, one, to hear that our business is potentially done in the window. We spoke about it the other day in the Liverpool podcast, as reported by Paul Joyce and David Maddox, that our window is done now with Calvin Ramsey. I'm hoping that it's not, because we badly need at least one midfielder in. And when you take a look, and let's have a look at the next graphic that I've put together. I put a graphic together comparing the two. Now remember, potentially 8 million on top of an Ox sale. I mean, why would we be keeping on? Why, first of all, why would we be regarding Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain as any sort of option or backup in our midfield in any way? We shouldn't. And two, why is this our thinking? It's absolutely crazy. And when you look at that graphic there and you see the amount of games between both these players and stuff like that, if you look at the amount of minutes, we know that Klopp doesn't fancy the boy. We know that he's not an option. We know there's times this season where he could have brought him in and he didn't. So why are we hanging on to him and saying, well, we just need this because it's going to leave us falling short? It doesn't make any sense to me at all. Tillman's available, 25 million. We've already spoken about the boy on several occasions. And you look at the difference between him and Ox in terms of time involved, in terms of games, in terms of consistency. This boy plays right throughout the season. And this was last season in terms of a Leicester season as well, where he had made it clear to Leicester that he wants to move on. But yet Rodgers persisted with him because he knows his quality. We seen the goal that he scored in the FA Cup final that time against Chelsea. We know he can score goals. We know he can create assists. That guy would be that breath of fresh air that we exactly need injected into our midfield. Not going into the new season looking over our shoulder and seeing the same old story on the bench in terms of midfield. We know that Milner has signed on for another year. And yes, you can talk that Milner will come in and he will do a job for you. We know that Curtis Jones will come off the bench and do a job for us. We know that Taki potentially might be moving on. You know what I mean? But it just seems in that midfield that we're so light. I mean, even going in with our best midfield, Fabinho, who's quite consistent, rarely gets injured and stuff like that. But you look at Thiago. I mean, if Thiago gets injured, is our answer then Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain? If Keita gets injured, or is he going to remain consistent? Is he going to be able to give us those, 7 out of 10 performances every week, which we know he hasn't already? Is the answer going to be Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain? We got to ask ourselves these hard questions. You know what I mean? We know that Jude Bellingham hopefully is coming in next year. We know that we're working on a deal there to put a deal in place. But we have to remain competitive and consistent going into the current season. We have to make sure that we do everything I can to give this team and all those players every chance of reaching those lofty heights that we want them to reach. And we can't turn around on the basis of this. Remember, all these players are going to be another year on. And then going into next summer, what are we looking at? Mo Salah potentially leaving on a free. That front line that we regard as legendary status, Mane, Firmino, and Mo Salah, we're going to lose the whole front line for 35 million. 35 million. Reds, let that sink in. Let that sink in, the job we have to do next year, next summer. Firmino going, Salah going, Ox going, all on a free, all walking through the door on a free. Is this the club we're about to become? Where we let players go on a free, and especially at that level. Something needs to be done about this. It's absolutely shocking. The drop off in quality once we move out of our key players is just unbelievable at times in that midfield, and it needs to be sorted. Um, we have to understand, and we have to put things in perspective. Like, we're not competing for top four anymore. Top four for us now is a given. We're competing to try and win the Premier League and the Champions League. And look at what we're going up against. Look at the midfields that we come up against. Look at the backup that they have. Look at what Man City at the moment is doing in the market. They're after coming off a season where I think they got to the semis of the Champions League, and they won the league by a point. And there they are strengthening again. Haaland coming in, Alvarez coming in, Calvin Phillips potentially coming in, Cucurella coming in off Brighton. Like, it's relentless with them. And yeah, I understand we can't necessarily spend at their level, but we can't keep on playing the poor mouth. This club has money. Liverpool has money. There's no doubt about it. We're up to our tonsils in money. So there's no shortage of money. We just have to be willing to push on and push and show that desire that we want. We have to be ruthless at times in terms of the way we look at our squad. There's no room for sentiment. Sentiment is gone. Sentiment, as I put in the key line, sentiment is for runners up. We need to go out there and at least get a midfielder. At least one. I'm talking about at least one. And it's weird for me that some of the targets that we were looking at last summer that are now available this summer at a fraction of the price that we were talking about last summer, and we're not making moves on them. And what would be so bad about moving for a Yuri Tillemans and bring them in at 25 million and moving Ox out? If Yuri Tillemans comes into our midfield and he comes into our midfield both as an option and potentially as a starter, does he not greatly improve our midfield? Of course he does. And that doesn't have to affect what we're doing with Jude Bellingham next season either. Jude Bellingham can still come in because that midfield will have moved on. The reliance on Jordan Henderson. Jordan Henderson is going to be a year older. Chances are James Milner next year, after this year's contract runs out, he'll probably be done. So we're going to have to bring in multiple targets anyway. So why not bring in one this year and give the team the best opportunity you can to compete at the top end of the table and also win the Champions League? It beggars belief that this is our thinking at the moment, and that's what's being reported. And it's only what's being reported. But I can't believe for a minute that Jurgen Klopp believes that business is done, that we don't need a quality midfielder in there to freshen up that situation, at least one. And I know I've no problem with us waiting on targets that we want if we don't get them in straight away or we can't bring them in when we want. But that doesn't stop us having a plan B to come in there to strengthen us and help us. We need plenty of options in midfield. We've seen it this season how our midfield at times fell short. It's no secret. And I would be really concerned in coming into the season if we don't sign a midfielder. I think it really could come back and bite us. I don't think we can expect Hendo a year on to perform at the levels that he's performed at. I don't think we can expect James Milner to be nothing more than an option occasionally off the bench. Curtis Jones who comes in and gives us another option, but again, the level and the drop off from our core three in midfield is absolutely massive. And what other options do we really have? Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think. Am I being reactionary? Is this a situation that we should be okay with? Should we be okay in going through a transfer window and only resolving half our issues, if even? Nunes came in, Mane moved out. Why aren't we spending the money? Where's the Nike money? Where's the bonus money? Where's the 150 million windfall? Jurgen Klopp after extending his contract for 2 years. Why aren't we pushing it? Why aren't we going for it? This is our season now to step up. We fell short again this season. This is our season now to step up. Try and push on, win the Premier League, win the Champions League. Right the wrongs of last season. Things not going our way. Contract stuff hanging over us. All that kind of stuff. New season, new start. Let's get things going. A new era in our front line. The old school gone. Come on, Liverpool. We need to be more than this. We need to dream bigger, We need to be out there in the market. We need to act like the big club. We need to act like the rich club we are and stop playing the poor mouth all the time. We need to stop talking about what we're going to do next summer and what we're going to do this summer. We need to arm Jurgen Klopp with every single player he needs to absolutely push on and challenge City the way we did this year. Let us know in the comments what you think. This has been the Shankly Sessions. Ox, why? Why? Ask yourselves this. A guy who comes in and literally offers the team nothing. A guy who's supposed to be an option off the bench for a Thiago or a Fabinho or a Keita or a Jordan Henderson. Massive drop off. We've seen it. Let's not fool ourselves. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments. Until next time, my friends, get this midfielder in.